now known to me. Time to go to work.
Zero is one of the most iconic characters in all of gaming. In my opinion, he stands next to titans of the industry like Mario, Link, Master Chief, Kratos, Sly Cooper, Geralt, Solid Snake, Kazuya Mishima, Ryu, Cloud Strife, Dante, Leon Kennedy, and so on. His design is executed with such sharpness that he's the only character I can think of who provides the player with an experience that is equivalent to that of a character in a fighting game. But Borderlands 2 is a looter-shooter RPG. How is this possible? In RPGs, unfortunately, a lot of the mechanics are built in such a way that your progression in the game is tied to you eventually invalidating the game through your playtime rather than your playing ability. They are built this way on purpose so that players who do not pursue skill development will feel as though they went on a journey of power amassment even if they never gained more than a novice's understanding of the systems. This is also true of Borderlands 2, the game that Zero comes from, but he does not conform to the mold. Even within his game, most of the skills on each character's skill trees give raw buffs to whatever stat so that they exist better. Zero's skills, by comparison, are gameplay funnels. Zero's skills reward the player for understanding the systems and pursuing greatness. Many of them reward the player for KOing an opponent, provide additional damage for critting the target, rewarding player accuracy, or reward player ring IQ for understanding the accumulation of damage and the positioning of enemies. An enormous contributor to Zero's game feel is the fact that his action skill cooldown is the second lowest out of all of the Vault Hunters. He has to wait very little time to queue up his next deception, which naturally links the player closer to how Zero is in the lore of the story. In playing this way, Zero isn't defined by his guns, he is the gun. Playing Gage doesn't feel like you're the one in control of the power. Death Trap is the power. Axton isn't the power, the turrets are. Salvador isn't either because the guns are the power. When you wait through their cooldowns, what you're essentially doing is waiting for the game to give power to things that are not you. This being the case means that you have to make the meaning out of your next decision in a way that is not echoed as deeply or as many times in a playthrough as Krieg, Salvador, Gage, or Axton. All of these characters have player skill expression, but even when they do, it is often through game exploit rather than design. I'm all for exploits. They have the chance to make a game super sick and iconic, but I can't credit the design for that, you know what I mean? Zero has extremely rapid-fire decision points. What is a decision? A decision is a choice between two things, a conclusion made and committed to. If the design does not support decision-making, then players don't play. Meaningful decision-making is the lifeblood of any game. Players make decisions constantly in Borderlands 2. Do you go with a Jacobs or a Hyperion? Are you a turtle shield guy or an adaptive shield guy? When there's no reason not to make that decision, then it's not a decision. It's something you do, or worse, it's fucking boring. But I said earlier that Zero funnels your gameplay. Isn't that the same thing? No. Zero's skills support excellence so that you can choose whatever decisions you think are the most enjoyable, valuable, or necessary during play. Zero and Maya are the most powerful feeling characters insofar as the player-controlled power fantasy because they are the ones doing everything. Zero feels so sick to play because in the lore of the setting, Maya is a siren, one of the most powerful beings in existence, but Zero can compete with Maya simply through his own ability. He doesn't need turrets or robots or superpowers. As a designer, when designing play, you have two choices when it comes to player avatar. You either A, design an intended experience, or B, allow the player total freedom. As I've played more games, the more I think A has value when executed well. When the design works, it has the truest form of ludonarrative harmony. All ludonarrative means is story and gameplay together. What makes games such a potent art form is that unlike films, books, and shows, the player interacts with the medium directly. In that way, gameplay can become story in a way that story can never become gameplay. But I want to talk about story for a bit. I don't know if this is confirmed anywhere, but Zero seems like he takes inspiration from the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise. He has this elongated head that shows nothing. No mouth, no ears, no eyes. He can speak, but his emotions are almost solely communicated with this neon red emanating from his head/helmet. We never know who or what he is. He is a humanoid, but with 4 fingers, slender, and much taller than the average person. We are never given any real clues as to who or what he could be, maintaining the mystique of the silent killer element of his character. What other character is a walking super soldier xenomorph that speaks in haiku and expresses himself with emoticons emanating from his neon sign faceplate? There isn't one. I also have to comment on the fact that making your commitments as a storyteller is what makes your stories stand out and have these iconic moments and memories for the fans. Zero as a character does not exist if Gearbox didn't decide to man the fuck up and move on from the cast in the first game. It takes a lot of willpower to do that, and you risk building resentment in your fan base. I have an immense respect for the team at Gearbox that worked on Borderlands 1 and 2.
Invent, but if you invent too much and it doesn't feel like what people love. So I think striking that balance was kind of somewhat difficult at the beginning, but as we started to go, we just said, you know what, let's be honest with ourselves, be natural, and just make the game that we feel is the best game. And I think that's sometimes it's hard to make a sequel sometimes, because if you give people what that first game was exactly, this group is going to be all upset and up in arms because it's the same thing. These people are going to love it because it's what they wanted more, but at the end of the day, it's really not a good thing to just change a few skins and do that. So we were very serious. We built the guns all again, completely new from the ground up. Most all the environments, all brand new characters and action skills. We just said, screw it. We go all in. We don't want to make 1.5. We want to make Borderlands 2. So we wanted to make that much better for the player that is more skill-based. But then we also were looking at the RPG side and making sure that the person that maybe isn't the Twitch gamer, but is the RPG guy, he has all this density in the stats and the way he can build his character that he feels at home inside of that too. But we wanted to bulk up each side of that and really create, to us, the best game for what this is. So
in game discussion videos on YouTube, people often talk about ludonarrative dissonance, when the player's decision-making doesn't match the story's urgency or pace. Ludonarrative harmony means that the player is engaged in the proceedings, actually portraying the fantasy of what it would be like to be this character with these powers. Zero is one of the few characters in games that draws the player in so deep that they become one with the weapon. They feel what it's like to draw aggro with deception, reposition, and then execute with a calculated melee or headshot. And speed. Speed and time are so important to the design. You have 6 seconds in one shot to meaningfully affect the engagement because Zero's action skill is used up upon the player connecting with a melee or shooting their gun. This means that to get the most out of it, you have to recognize problem enemies and kill them or make a plan for them in 6 seconds while you KO someone else or reposition. There is scrutiny placed on your play because Zero does not reward you if you fuck up. Salvador continuously shoots shots with his regenerating ammo from both guns, so even if you miss, you can still keep going. Maya's action skill is not used up if you miss. Krieg hitting himself is an expected outcome, and Gage and Axton don't even have to do anything to receive a second win. The ultimate player get out of jail free. You aren't granted any free passes, but in so doing, becoming good at playing this character provides a level of satisfaction that is not present in the other characters. On Zero, these elements are not disparate, but that funnel does not stop player choice. It is important to say that. Because there are not enough levels to max out every skill, you have to make your commitment as a player on how you want to play Zero. But there are tons of ways. Do you play Sniper? Do you play Shotgun? Do you focus Melee? Do you prefer Hunter class mod for the extra regeneration and cooldown rate? Or do you play Legendary Ninja class mod for the crazy movement? Do you run regular shield or a roid shield to maximize Zero's melee damage when the enemy isn't in range for killing blow? Not only is this character excellent at delivering a designed experience, but there is flow and meaning to be drawn from how you, as the player, choose to interact with these tools. Zero's design is incredibly synergistic because the middle tree, Cunning, exists purely to support himself and his teammates. The sniping tree synergizes with shotguns because of the accuracy and crit modifiers, and the bloodshed tree also synergizes with shotguns because of the close range element of melee attacks. And Cunning Tree's capstone skill, Death Blossom, perfectly exemplifies this, fitting in seamlessly to sniping or melee combat. Zero is one of the edgiest edgelord characters I've ever seen. The crazy thing is, though, is that he's not fucking annoying. This all comes down to the fact that he speaks with such calm, authoritative language, and that damn near all of his dialogue is poetry. When you play a game that has a player avatar with voice lines for so long, two things happen. The player appreciates the dialogue and it becomes iconic, or the dialogue is poorly written, poorly acted, and drags down the experience. Thankfully, Zero is firmly in category number 1. Due to the efforts from the writers to make Zero speak in haiku, his dialogue becomes recognizable and there is a rhythmic quality to his speech, making it easy to listen to even after hundreds of hours of play. The writers and designers intended for this character to be a skillful assassin, and they delivered on the premise with flying colors. Playing Zero feels intensely and meaningfully different from the other 5 characters on Borderlands 2's roster. You move swiftly and the game doesn't do anything for you. All it does is power you up to make the right call. Zero rewards players for playing well. It really is that simple. Use deception to get to cover. Use deception to set up a conga line and bore the opponents. Oh, that was unasked for. Use deception to reposition and backstab someone, then re-decept and throw your kunai at the next target and melee them too. I've never, ever played another game in which the flow was so intense and satisfying when done well. But that's not Borderlands 2, it's Zero. Zero goes beyond the game. If you take nothing else from this video, listen, I do not like shooters, they are not my cup of tea. But Borderlands 2 executed the concept of a skillful sniper so wonderfully that I dive right in and want to learn how to shoot. I have hundreds of hours on this character, that's how well they did, that they could make someone who doesn't care at all for FPS games to get so invested in a character whose modus operandi is the perfect shot. Borderlands 2 would be a fantastic game even without Zero, which makes his inclusion in the game just another reason it is so iconic. He is one of the most impactful and resonating character designs ever created. The people responsible for making him exist have my utmost respect and adoration, because a design like this only comes once in a lifetime.